Why Trump suddenly reversed course on sanctions against Chinese tech giant ZTE. Tariffs on steel for Mexico and Canada will depend on NAFTA. Sergei Skripal reportedly briefed European intelligence agencies about Russia and how to know if you are ready for retirement. Hi there, and welcome to today's edition of Mexico News Network's Breaking News Business. I'm your host, Joseph Garza. Let's get on down with today's information. President Donald Trump's stunning tweet suggesting that the U.S. would rescind sanctions against Chinese telecom giant ZTE appears to be part of a larger deal to try and protect U.S. farmers, according to a new report. The U.S. had banned American companies from selling parts to ZTE after it had admitted to making illegal shipments to Iran and North Korea. The concession was welcomed in China and comes ahead of high-level trade talks this week in Washington aimed at addressing an escalating dispute between the world's two largest economies. The Wall Street Journal reported, citing sources, that the reprieve for ZTE was being negotiated as part of a possible deal in which China would lift tariffs on certain U.S. agricultural products, such as ginseng, that went into effect in April. The Wall Street Journal reported Monday that in exchange for the removal of sanctions on ZTE, China plans to drop tariffs on a slew of U.S. agricultural products, including pork. The Chinese may also make it easier for other U.S. agricultural products to enter the country in addition to the tariff relief, the Journal reported. While the deal is not a comprehensive measure, any agreement would be a step towards decreasing recent trade tensions between the U.S. and China. In other news, the matter of whether or not Donald Trump decides to extend the tariff exemptions to Mexico and Canada in the steel and aluminum sectors will depend on the state of negotiations of the North American Free Trade Agreement, the U.S. Commerce Secretary Wilbur Ross said on Monday. This is at a time when there is an increase in the uncertainty of an agreement in the commercial pact and the proximity of a deadline indicated by the U.S. Congress to achieve a consensus among the countries that make up this alliance. Depending on where we are in NAFTA on June 1st, the president will decide whether or not to extend his situation. It cannot be predicted at the moment, Ross said, referring to Mexico and Canada during a forum at the National Press Club, according to a Notimex report. It is worth remembering that the U.S. president extended the exemption to Mexico, Canada, and the European Union for the imposition of tariffs on their exports of steel and aluminum to the United States on April 30th and for an additional 30 days. Regarding the status of the negotiations, the Commerce Secretary mentioned that issues such as the rules of origin, the automatic termination clause, and the dispositions of resolution of disputes, the so-called Chapter 19, are still pending, which have slowed conversations from the beginning. They are very complex issues, particularly the rules of origin, Ross said. He added that eventually it will be the negotiators who will have to discuss each period and each comma in the texts. Last week, Speaker of the House of Representatives Paul Ryan said that the U.S. Congress would have to receive the agreement by Thursday, May 17th, if the three countries' interests are to be voted on this year. Moving on, poisoned spy Sergei Skripal gave briefings to European intelligence agencies about Russian spying even after he had supposedly retired, according to multiple reports. The New York Times and Czech language publication Respect are reporting that Skripal, who was poisoned with a Russian nerve agent earlier this year and remains in a hospital in England, provided spy services with information about Russian intelligence services. Britain has blamed the attempted assassination, which also resulted in the hospitalization of Skripal's daughter, Julia, and an English police officer, on Russia. Skripal worked for Russian military intelligence before becoming a double agent and helping Britain, and was arrested by Russia in 2004. He was subsequently traded with the UK in a spy swap and now lives in Salisbury, England, the site of the attack. According to the New York Times, Skripal provided these briefings to spies in Estonia and the Czech Republic. Discussing the briefings, a retired Czech spy told The Guardian, "The ties between MI6 and the Czech intelligence services are so good that it's normal that the British were willing to rent him out, so to speak, to the Czech services. It would have been a very useful and interesting meeting for the Czechs, there's no doubt about that. When do you have the chance to meet a KGB or GRU officer? Almost never." It's not clear, however, if Skripal's actions informed Russia's attempt on his life. Both the New York Times and The Guardian cite security sources who say that these briefings by themselves wouldn't necessarily be reason to carry out such a risky assassination attempt, especially as Skripal's intelligence would be outdated. If he was pitching other Russians, that would put him higher on the list, one source told The Times, or if he got too close to something that was really sensitive to the Russians. In other headlines, some people retire too soon, others wait too late. But how do you know when it's the right time to retire? Kiplinger's Janet Bodnar asked the magazine's readers, how did you make the decision to retire and what advice would you give? Of course, the chief concern should be making sure you're financially ready. Some readers said that they had worked with so many people who had had enough, but didn't have enough money to live on without working. They had retired, but found they had to find a job to make ends meet. When the alarm goes off early Monday morning and it takes every ounce of strength you have to roll out of bed, you're probably wishing you could just hurry up and retire already. But retiring early can have major consequences, and most people underestimate how much they'll actually need to live comfortably. So definitely you're not ready if you don't have a clear monthly financial plan. You can't know how much money you'll need during retirement if you haven't created a monthly budget. Make sure you have at least a rough estimate of how much money you'll need each month to cover necessities, as well as the amount you'll want to spend each month for other expenses. Then add a buffer just to be safe. Answering the question of when it's time to retire is about more than having enough money. It's one thing to be financially prepared for retirement, but don't discount the mental upheaval that might ensue once you leave your career behind you, says Amari Bachman for Motley Fool. Though many seniors look forward to the downtime they've been missing during their working years, you may come to find that your newly unstructured existence throws you for an emotional loop. So make sure you have a hobby lined up or something to occupy your time. If you're debt-free, you might be a good candidate for early retirement. If your mortgage is paid off and you don't have any loans, credit card balances, or other debt, you won't have to worry about making large payments during retirement, and that could be the biggest difference from living a stressful, non-job-going day to a peaceful reflection of the career that is now behind you. If you're thinking about retiring soon or have recently retired, congratulations and enjoy it. And finally, let's take a look at the markets. The Mexican peso increased 0.38% to 19.7683 from 19.6930 in the previous trading session. On the other hand, the IPC Mexico decreased 0.56% to 46,259 from 46,519 in the previous trading session. This was all for today. Thank you for staying with us. I'm Joseph Garza. Remember to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Google+, and log on to MexicoNewsNetwork.com for more information on Mexico and the world. Until next time.